as you put more and more of these images and start filling the pages, you might start to adjust the location of each of these items, such as the text. Maybe this text should move in a little bit so that it lines up with this and it gets closer to the other image itself, or start to move this up closer because I feel that there might be too much space in here, space between the diagrams. Maybe I needed a space so that this should have been a little bit closer so that I have a room for the title if I did want to put the title down here somewhere, right? Because now this looks too close to each other. So you're going to start to make these judgment calls on where to place everything, how the whole composition works, okay? But one more thing, or the last thing I want to add to this project is the graphic motif. Okay, for the graphic motif, if you recall the Auspicious Mind, where all these hexagon bubbles and stuff were floating out of the guy's head, and kind of use that as this motif that carries on throughout every page. Okay, now do be careful about doing that. If it's too much, then it's too much. Okay, you don't want those kind of stuff to compete with your project itself. You don't want the graphic motif to be the presentation. Okay? So you kind of want to try to keep it as simple as possible. Here's an analogy. If I offered you a shit sandwich, would you eat it? What if I put sugar on it? What if I put lots of sugar on it? Okay? Shit's going to be shit no matter what. So probably take care of the content first before trying to decorate the whole thing up. Okay? Let the sugar be the enhancement, the part that adds to it. All right? Okay. So let's go on and try to add a simple graphic motif to this.
Before you move on, can I ask something real quick?
Yeah. Do you want me to pause or?
No, that's okay. And also, when we place these images, I don't know if you remember from the presentation that I made earlier, when you place these images, place them as link and keep them in the same folder as your Illustrator file. Just in case, if this get too close to your diagram, right, you could go back to Photoshop, to this original image. You can just move this over, right, come back to Illustrator, and then just reload it then. This thing gets shipped over.
So correcting like this part right here, going back to your original image, fixing it up, and then link it so that it will, when you just replace it, it'll just come in as that.
When you put in the image, was it already at 150, or can you adjust the PPI in
No.
Illustrator?
No,
You have to adjust it prior.
you have to adjust it prior to getting into Illustrator. Okay? Okay, so the last part I'm going to add to this thing is, like I said, the graphic motif. And I'm going to keep it simple and maybe just keep it as maybe just a line or a line towards the back right there. If I use a rectangle tool, and probably should make a new layer for this, new layer, graph motif. Graph. Okay. And use the rectangle tool and click, oops, Control Z, maybe from the corner if this was a full bleed thing, and kind of come up to about the third of the way page. Okay. So that might be enough to be that graphic motif. Of course, I cover the letters up, so let's do this. Let's put this layer behind the text and take this text and turn it into the white as well, just like what this is, and then turn my graphic motif on, and then now it shows up as something that relates a little bit more to the main title or something. So this graphic motif, this black bar right there, can either appear on every page with some sort of descriptors on this bar. Maybe it's just a space for the page number or something. Okay, so that you keep this thing as something that is consistent throughout your whole project or for your whole pages. The only reason you want to do that is probably because your subject or what you're going to put in to these portfolio are going to be from your first year, your second year, first semester, second semester, and all that. So the quality or even the subject matter or your design philosophy, design, how you design the thing might be all different, right? So your first project may not look similar to your second or fourth or fifth project, right? Because you are developing all these new ideas. The idea for the graphic tools, such as the consistent title, or this graphic motif right here, this black bar, and the title of the classroom or something, is what's going to start to make your whole portfolio uniform. Even though your project itself might all be different, those simple little elements, like your titles, like your graphic motif, is going to start to tie the whole booklet together. And that's the only reason to keep those items as consistent as possible. As well, stick to a font like Helvetica, or we don't have Helvetica, so Arial, sans serif, something without the squiggly cues. Keep the fonts consistent. If you select one type of font, use it throughout the whole booklet. Okay, if you start to change fonts with every project, your portfolio is going to look schizophrenic. Schizophrenic? Yeah, right? It's going to look like a bunch of different people did your book. So you don't want that to happen. Try to keep the whole format as consistent as possible. All right?